Alright, let's do a mic check real quick. Mic check, mic check.
1 2 1 2.
Okay, and then some. Woo-de-woo. What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Amarie, back again today speaking to the streets. I'm your host, Amarie Jacobs, and today I have a very important guest today. He's an educator. He is an asset to the world, and he is a black king. Give it up for Mr. Antonio himself.
What's going on? What's going on? How y'all feeling? Oh no.
No, yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, cool.
Thank you so much for coming out. I appreciate you so much. So how you doing today?
I'm good, you know.
Doing all right?
Yeah, I'm feeling all right.
Yes. Okay, so first and foremost, I want to just really thank you and just express my gratitude for you coming out. I know you're an educator, so tell me a little bit more about that.
So, as you just mentioned, I am an educator, but I just got started in it, so I'm pretty new. So, like, I just came to my school. I just got back from Baltimore in December, but I got hired at my school in January.
What were you doing in Baltimore?
I was actually teaching, but I was actually teaching. I was in this master's program at Johns Hopkins and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Sorry. Nah, I've been working. Hand cramping up, my bad. But yeah, I was at Johns Hopkins and shit, teaching the kids, the youth of Baltimore. That's a real black city. So like, that's one thing that really got my passion into this education. That's why when I came back home, I had to teach at the DeKalb County.
Yes, okay, I understand. Yes, I definitely respect that first and foremost, because at the end of the day, we have to help each other so we can know where we're going. You know, if you don't know where you're coming from and you don't know what people are like that's from your culture, you're going to be confused to a certain degree or looking
No, I exactly agree, because like, I feel like the biggest problem in education is like, not only is there not enough black faces in the classroom, but like there's not enough black faces that can actually relate to the experiences that a lot of these kids are actually going through. So like, I feel like I actually do have like an upper hand as far as that goes, because you know, I'm first generation, I was raised low income, so like I understand a lot of the day-to-day problems that like a lot of these kids are dealing with, that they gotta wake up with and go to class with. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? And still try to put their best foot forward. You know? But really, like, that's one thing like I try to teach my kids often, is just that like yourself should always be enough. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But you know, in the social media age, everyone's always comparing that whatever. You know what I'm saying? Whether they're comparing themselves to, you know, the student sitting beside them, or to some student that's just on social media, or some child who's living a life that they know they can't have or wish they did have.
Exactly. So what grade do you teach?
I teach 8th grade. 8th
grade. So 8th grade is such a tricky grade. They're, you know, halfway between becoming young adults but getting out of that childhood stage. So do you feel like, what's your relationship with them? Do you feel like they're easy to deal with, or do you feel like it's slightly more complicated?
Hell no. Them brothers is not easy to deal with.
Now, before we lead more further into it, I do know that you teach special ed. So I definitely want to applaud you for that, for your patience,
I appreciate
and for just being here for you know, just a part of the community that's, I don't want to say necessarily like looked down on, or not really like, that's not,
I understand what you're saying. I think that demographic is just, you know, that's the demographic that needs the help that at least I can supply.
Yes.
Because one thing that I also realized in Baltimore, I was doing the whole group setting teaching, and I was like, my passion is not really there, because I saw myself oftentimes, because the special ed curriculum is completely different in Baltimore, just because so many students are already on 504 plans and IEPs. IEP is an individualized education plan. So like, if they say you can get IEP if they say your child has ADHD, which why most students are overdiagnosed with ADHD, and why most students are actually why most black students are diagnosed with ADHD. That's why the IEP is why most blacks. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that's why there's more black students in special ed than there are white kids, because of that simple diagnostic.
Okay.
See what I'm saying?
So basically, a lot of this turmoil is started in education.
Yes, I agree.
What part do you feel like plays the most important part in your relationship with the children? Where do you feel like what asset of yourself do you feel like is the best asset for the children? Because everybody is not bold enough and intelligent enough to deal with special ed children. So what do you feel like helps them the most?
Relatability, and I don't look down on them ever. So like, typically in special ed, like, especially by the time you become an 8th grader, you know what an IEP is, you know what your 504 says about you, and you know what like stigma that holds. So like I was actually saying earlier, so my boy and I remember, so they have this annual thing where like all the special ed students in the school are like given awards by like all the teachers that they have.
Okay.
And like they have IEPs and 504s, but they're in a co-taught setting and they've been in that for like 2-3 years. So like they feel like it demeans them, that special ed tag, to the point that they didn't even want to walk into the library where this event was being held. I ended up having to be the one to talk them into it and just like, bare minimum, just come in here and sit down. You know what I'm saying? But then they end up being the two getting the most awards.
Okay. Oh wow.
Yes.
Okay. So do you feel like to a certain extent they are putting children in categories that they don't need to be in? Do you feel like they are talented enough and intelligent enough to not be with the special ed group?
Honestly, some of them actually do need it more than others, but I feel like it should be something that you should be able to work out of quicker. So the IEP meetings are only held once a year. Once you get put on the IEP, so if you're put on the IEP in 3rd grade, it only gets reevaluated every year because they give you learning goals. So if they say you don't meet them, you're on the IEP the next year, and then you're in special ed again.
But who's to say that someone doesn't know how? What if they catch on literally a month after? You know, like what if
they gotta wait till their IEP date.
Wow.
And it sucks. And it sucks because like we end up actually having a student. His name is Ethan, and his parent really wants him off of IEP, but for some reason the school won't grant her that access. You could be a parent like, I don't want my kid in special ed anymore. But once you get put on the IEP, it's actually a contract. So once that contract's not fulfilled, the school has all the rights over your child's learning, which I think is ridiculous. This is another thing that in this entire system, like of schooling, that we need to change too as well.
I definitely, do you know Dr. Umar Key?
I'm familiar with him. What do you gotta say?
Well, I am a fan. I'm not gonna say a fan.
It's okay.
I'm not gonna say fan. I'm a big supporter of his beliefs and thoughts. I do support him wanting to. Well, I do support him creating a school for the brothers. You know, definitely for the younger brothers.
I agree. He's helped a lot.
Yes, and to be honest, I feel like that's really what we need. You know. But going back to you saying people being relatable, at the end of the day, we need people that are understanding our own people and are understanding our own culture. You know, because at the end of the day, if you say one of your students who actually has more intelligence and more knowledge and more light than the actual special ed students and they don't need to be on IEP, they can actually they can survive in a regular public school area, no special ed classes.
And they can. And I think, to be honest, like, you're correct. Oh, sorry. But you're all correct because that's one thing, like, at least in special ed setting, especially when it's dealing with like behavioral special ed needs, a lot of those kids are just raised on and taught survival in school. Yes. Like they're not used to having a teacher who's going to actually have their best interest in mind at all times, because a lot of times, like my co-teacher, she even said this, like, most of the time your kids are just used to them doing an assignment and the smart kid getting a C- and being happy, and other kids getting an F and being happy. Exactly. Because that's what they're just used to. So they're also get used to this like life of minimal effort. Mm-hmm. So like, and I think that hinders them because minimal effort is survival. But when you want to excel and you want to be elite, you have to put that best foot forward every day, so then they can see it and learn from it. And I'm not gonna lie, like, I think if I would have had more time with my 8th graders, I could have transformed them even more than what they already did.
I feel like, at the end of the day, school is a part of structuralism. Mm-hmm. I didn't stop learning about slavery till my sophomore year in college. At the end of the day, we're not living in slavery time, so why is it important for me to know that in the past, my ancestors were nothing to the economy, nothing to the country.
Were viewed as property.
Exactly, that we're viewed as property. So, but they want to put that in our head and make us remember. And I wasn't in any special ed classes, but
it's just not in the curriculum, and that's one of the things that I think. Like I said, the educational system is so at fault for a lot of the miseducation that happens in America.
So, what do you want to do with you being an educator? How far do you want to go?
I used to want to be a principal, but I think my calling is actually going to bring me into like nonprofit organizations where I want to be a director, because I'm actually a product of Upward Bound.
Okay. So, and what's Upward Bound?
So Upward Bound is a college readiness program. Upward Bound. Okay, yeah. So it's a college readiness program that's geared, it's focused on, you either have to be first generation or low income, 90% of us in Upward Bound or both. And so in the summer times, like my Upward Bound specifically, we would go to Georgia State and we'd be learning the classes that we would be taking first semester of the next school year. And this goes from 9th grade until you graduate. Okay. And so just having that type of readiness, I think, is actually what prepared me more for school, because school is very systematic, and if you don't have that leg up as a black person, like it can be difficult and you can just get lost in it, because school has a lot of other outside factors that affect you too. So like if you can just take the time to like not have to think about the academic part, you can focus more on the extracurriculars. You can focus more on the community service, or just being in an organization that you truly like. Because there's some kids who don't join organizations. They're just like, by the time I do my homework or by the time I get home and finish my work, I don't even want to think about school anymore.
Exactly.
Like you know how many like D1 athletes don't play sports because they don't even want to be at the school? Like, and I seen that firsthand with my 8th graders, because like you can see a really good athlete, you know what I'm saying? Because you go to the gym and you're just like, wow, like you don't play no sports, like, you know what I mean?
They have the body for it. You see that they're strong. They have the ability to physically do something that you've seen already. Exactly. Yeah. And they don't feel enthusiastic to do that because they don't want to go to school.
Yeah. Or they don't want to represent the school, or they don't even want to be tied to the school.
Yeah.
Like, and it's all those factors that just go into it that just make it a lot more difficult, especially as black youth coming up in America.
Definitely. No, I understand and I agree. I feel like they are making it a point to keep the black community down. I'm gonna start going to the black activist part of me now. So
okay, no, do you know?
Shouts out to our dashikis too.
Shout out to it.
Yes, twins. I love your dashiki. It looks so nice.
I appreciate it. Give me 5.
Hey, turn up. I forgot what I was talking about. With the school system and leading to black activism, they have structured us to feel like we need to only be workers. They've structured us to feel like we only need to follow direction and just listen and act accordingly to what they're saying. I don't feel like it's really a good asset to our community. Do you feel like education is a good asset, or do you feel like it's a bad asset to our community?
I think it's a bad asset in the way that it's set up now. Have you ever heard of school to prison pipeline?
No, what is that?
So basically, school to prison pipeline is saying how the school system itself, like the entire structure of the school system, and like the disproportionate like suspensions and expulsions of black kids are setting them up to basically pipeline them, walk them down the path to prison. Think about it. From the structured times, the way we all have to eat at the exact same time, and then that we all have to move on a bell system. We don't even move, like students don't even move because the teacher said so. That bell ring, you probably remember high school. I don't dismiss you, the bell does. I mean the bell don't dismiss you, I dismiss you. Yes. But what happens? Everybody walk out.
Yep. Because the bell ring, we like, no, we definitely got to get up out of here.
So you think, when that bell ring, what they gonna tell you if you really want to go to rec and you in prison, you gonna move. Yeah. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy? There are more personal owned prisons than there are personal owned businesses. People are owning prisons.
That's also true.
Why do you feel like that needs to be a good investment? I'm just gonna invest and I'm just gonna get a prison.
The craziest thing, the only reason it's a good investment is because it's a business that's gonna always have a customer. Oh, yeah. And that's the bottom line, and that's why I think it's so like messed up about privately owned prisons. Yeah. Because we put more money into privately owned prisons and then private school.
Ooh, but see, that's
think about that.
No, but see,
because people always love to compare it to public school, but when you compare it to private school, where motherfuckers actually pay to be in your school building, that's saying something.
It is.
Because we have more prisons than schools, but I'm listening.
But in addition to you saying that they have more privately owned, facilities that you have to pay for, I feel like they're breeding us. Mm-hmm. Like how you breed dogs. Oh, I specifically want this German Shepherd mixed with this Chihuahua. You're gonna make that specific breed. So they're gonna say, I specifically want this group of kids to be knowledgeable about how they can succeed in life, and I want this group of kids to not know anything and to be structured and to only learn how to be an employee, how to be a worker. They don't really teach, and it goes back to being relatable. They have those kids they have some of your students on IEP that do not need to be there, and they're keeping them down to a level that they could have been overcame. But if we you know, brothers and sisters from our community start opening our own schools and we start personally connecting with these students, we'll say, you don't need to be in IEP because you got all the common sense in the world, you know what the hell you be doing. No, you're not going to be in this class with these special ed, with these special needs children because you're above and beyond that. You know, people don't, and that's what I'm saying. I feel like that's so unfair that they only give you one time a year to figure out if you need to be on IEP or not. You know?
I agree.
Like,
so that's one thing that I think is not only is it the annual evaluation that's bad, it's just that the young ages that many of them are put on IEPs, and I think it's unfair because I should have been on the damn IEP if that's the case because I didn't learn how to read till 2nd grade.
What?
So whatever first grade teachers looked at me and was like, yeah, just go ahead. Like, and that's another thing that's a problem in school. We just push students along.
We do.
You see what I'm saying?
We do.
Like, I remember I had this one stepbrother, and he was smart, but he was just so bad that no teacher ever wanted him. So until he got to high school, you know, because high school, you know, they make you work. You know what I'm saying? You fail, don't give a fuck. They just put you in a different teacher's class.
And they be like, hey, you're a freshman, you're gonna be a freshman again.
But there's a lot of students, even is not the brightest pupil, but you know, that's one thing that I noticed is that he's been pushed along, and it shows in his writing, it shows in all of his work that he has. You know what I'm saying? But like,
there's no personal connection there for them to feel like they need to be enthusiastic, like influenced to do better.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too. Has a very difficult life. He's also moved around a lot and things like that. Okay. But like, that's one of the things that like also was really bad. Like that proves that at any state, at any moment, if you were a student like, they'll just push you along because they don't want you in the classroom. But then you're setting them up really for failure on the back end because the world doesn't work like that. High school don't work like that. College don't work like that. Jobs don't work like that. Oh, and all of these things don't work like that. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's something that's like really detrimental to students, and not only, but it disproportionately happens to black students or students that are minorities, people of color.
I agree. I definitely agree. I feel like, but see, this is what people fail to realize. When you underestimate people, and when you're playing people like they're stupid, they will take that and they will let it ride like they're stupid the entire time. Like,
but that's a defense mechanism. Like that's the thing about minimal effort, and like again going back to how a lot of these students are just like built to survive school, especially special ed students.
Definitely.
You see what I mean?
Yes.
So like when you're teaching them that minimal effort is enough.
Yep.
And that's one thing that like I didn't do with my students. Like I always made sure that they, at least for them specifically, were trying their best to excel. And what I would do mostly is like give them the freedom of an assignment. Like we used to have this thing called Free Write Fridays. Okay. And so all I want you to do is write an essay. Show me you can write an essay. You know what I'm saying? But write whatever you want. Okay. You mean? See what I mean? Gave them all their own journals. So like now they're not only just being able to like processing like how to write an essay, but they also are looking at it like it's my journal. You know what I'm saying? The only person gonna read it is Mr. Bailey. And so like you learn so much more about students when like you give them like that freedom of choice.
Yes, definitely. I do feel like education kind of suppresses a lot of children's creativity. You know,
I agree as well.
We definitely, the education system definitely, they make us learn what they want us to learn. If you could add 3 new courses, or if you could exchange 3 courses for another 3 courses, what would those 3 courses that you would bring to the system would be? What would they be?
I would bring, of course, Black American history. Don't call me African American, sorry. But
no, I love that you said that we're not African.
Not. Never been. No, I'm just playing. I have been. My ancestors were. But like, you know what I'm saying?
But we're
like,
not African.
Yeah, seriously. I wrote my entire IS on, well, this is about how the Black Power movement created like a black stigma, but like one thing that I kept emphasizing in is that I'm a Black American.
But see, are we Black though? They've been teaching us.
I understand what
you know, you get what I'm saying? They've been teaching us to label ourselves with the incorrect, with the wrong titles. Mm-hmm. This is black. The color of my microphone is black. You're brown. So you have melanin to your skin.
I want to ask you this question though. What would you call us?
Melanated people, brothers and sisters. The brothers
I don't want to argue with you, but you know, melanin is just a skin pigment thing. You know, Indians. Well, people from India have melanin.
They have melanin as well.
But
so I feel like when you're specifically talking about my melanated people can see me and can tell, okay, she's not Indian. So they specifically know what ethnic group I'm talking about, you know? And I feel like it goes the same for the Indians. But think about it, like we're the only, other than the blacks, the Africans.
But the reason I say that though is mostly because like same way we reclaim the word nigga.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, yes, you tried to like make it a derogatory term by calling me black, but I feel like it's even worse to call me African American and you strip me from my country, strip me from my culture, strip me from all my traditional traditions.
But you know
what I'm saying?
You know that was just created in the 80s. They weren't calling us African Americans.
That's also true too. But you know, we were also called free people at one time too. You know what I'm saying? Like they change our name all the time. So it's like, why can't we just pick which one we want to be called? That's how I look at it.
But it's not even why can't we pick? Why can't we pick from the options that you gave us? We need to pick from our own options. If we decide not to go by African American, we don't need to go by African American, and neither does the government. They don't need to describe us as African American.
I agree.
You know, and the same goes for black. At the end of the day, different shades of black is great. We're not dead.
We don't. Yeah, I was gonna say we don't really even need no title.
We don't.
But like, as a human race, we really don't either. But like, I feel like as far as being in America, like calling yourself black, in my personal opinion, is very prideful. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm proud to be considered black. Like, I remember even in college, I threw this Black History Month extravaganza, and like what we did purposely was highlight the different shades of black, but not even talking about light skin versus dark skin, but saying more like how African American, being an African immigrant to this country, and being a Caribbean immigrant to this country, or being Afro-Latinx, and things of that nature are all worth being valued under the black umbrella, but we all need to also understand, like, kind of like you're saying, how they're different and how they do vary.
Definitely. I agree. I definitely agree. I feel like the brothers and sisters, the American brothers and sisters, I feel like we are very confused based on the media and based on how people want us to think about ourselves and how the world views us, you know?
I agree.
And this is also the difference between, you know, when I was just going back to the melanin with Indians, our hair is different.
It is.
No other race has our hair. You know, Indians, they are brown, they are melanated, but their hair does not look like our hair. Their hair looks like Asian hair, Caucasian hair.
The ones whose hair defy gravity is Eastern Asians.
Exactly.
And if you know that history, that we are actually their indigenous people as well.
Exactly. But you know, so what's your knowledge on our history? Like, are you aware of like all what I've heard?
I wouldn't say I know everything. But just like you, like, I mean, college taught me a lot. Like, I've always been aware of like American history, like African,
but they fed
Black American history.
They fed
but one thing that I did in college that I did on purpose to take a different approach is that since we did come from Africa, a lot of my classes were based on African history, African geography, African traditions, just because I want to learn more about that. And of course, since I'm a Black American history major, that like I had to take other classes that like interrelated with that too. But like that's where I realized, like, my professor, he's from Senegal. Like my main advisor, he was from Senegal, and like I was closest with him just because like he was teaching me more of the unknown that I didn't know. You see what I'm saying? Like yes, in all of my Black American history classes, like I would learn about unsung heroes like Ella Baker and Barrett Rustin and things of that nature, but it's more like I still get the gist. You know what I'm saying? But to like actually learn about Mansa Musa more than him just being the richest African person ever. You see what I'm saying? But like just understanding that what he did for architecture, the reason he actually brought education to the entire world on his pilgrimage to Mecca. You see what I'm saying? And not only that is that he was part of the Mali Empire, which also was one of the most important Western Sudanese empires of all time. Besides Songhai, but that's because Songhai, you know, they brought in irrigation, they started using the waterways and like made travel more efficient. But Asmus didn't need that. 100 camels, we're going to Mecca. Let's get it. You see what I'm saying? And like how like he taught He had purposeful stops that he was purposely going to places, meeting their leaders, meeting their kings, meeting whatever royalties that were there, giving them gifts, and then also teaching them his culture. The only culture that he actually brought back to Africa was the Middle Eastern culture, and it was only for architect. Yeah, so the way they build buildings in West Africa, for the most part, is Middle Eastern architect. But that's just because they needed a coolant system before there was AC. You see what I mean?
Got you. Okay. Just basically the building blocks to where everybody's trying to go.
But we still perfected it.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
So we have, out of those 3 classes, we have one being African American Studies. What would be the other 2 classes?
Financial literacy.
Yes, I agree.
And
because it's taxes, it's credit. Nobody knows how to buy a house. Nobody knows what they need to invest their money on. Nobody knows how.
Nobody knows how the money system works for real.
No.
I still don't.
Yeah.
And that's a problem.
Yes, it is.
Think about it. We went through all of our primary schooling. We've gone through college, and I still feel like I'm financially illiterate.
Yeah. No, I agree. And they kind of minimize our financial literacy. Growing up, everybody's always like, oh, save 10% of what you have, save 10%. No, save as much as you possibly can. If you paid all your bills, and if you have food in your refrigerator or food on the table, clothes on your back, save the rest of that check so you can eventually learn to invest it. They're not teaching us, they're really not even teaching us the beginning stones of financial literacy. They're not teaching us anything. They're just teaching us to add and subtract. Oh, I need more money. I need $1, $2, $3. It's like, no, that $1, I need to multiply it by 10. Now I'm going to get $10. I need to multiply this $10 by 20. Now I'm going to have $200. They teach us, especially I feel like in our community, we just know how to add and subtract.
No, I agree. Like you said, for those foundational stages of wealth, they don't teach us how to build generational wealth.
Absolutely.
They teach, because even in some financial literacy centers, they do, but they'll teach us investing. But what people don't understand is that generational wealth doesn't necessarily come from investing initially, because I ain't got shit to invest. What am I supposed to invest? You know what I'm saying? But see, then you gotta start thinking of what
you're supposed to invest is the money that they're supposed to influence you to save. But instead they're influencing you to, stay with pop culture, buy this new album, buy these new clothes. Fuck them clothes. I'm not even gonna lie, and I am not ashamed to admit it. I've been working at my job for almost 2 years. I have not bought any new work clothes. I haven't, And
I feel you.
And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I see all the time I see my coworkers, they have new clothes. I'm like, oh, that looks nice. I need to save my money to pay these bills and to create wealth so I can save some money to invest it. Y'all worrying about looking nice for each other when we all still have the same face. And then this is nothing but materialism.
It is.
So they have us focused, and it goes back to media, they have us focused on everything that's opposite of what we actually need to be learning. So you feel like African American Studies would be a good class. You feel like financial literacy would be a good class. What would be your third class?
This is a class that used to exist, but they need to bring back home ec.
Home ec, okay. I agree.
Because home ec teaches you everything you need to know by bare minimum. If you know how to cook, if you know how to sew, if you know how to, what was another thing we used to learn?
Raise a baby, they had to
we had to do that too. But if you
I never took that class though. I never took it.
I had that class in 7th grade and I've never seen it again. I've never seen that class again, but that class was so helpful.
But you know what's crazy? Growing up, watching Nickelodeon TV shows, home ec was always a big
it was a huge thing back in the day.
Yeah, it was.
I was actually having a conversation with teachers one time and they was like, no, we need to bring back home ec because I ain't gonna lie, home ec taught me how to cook when I didn't know how to cook. So when I used to be at home, matter of fact, I lied. My first home ec class was in 6th grade. But I was only at that school for a little bit. But it taught me how to cook at an age where I didn't know how to cook. So when I was at home feeling like I had to fend for myself, I was confident at least in what I knew how to make.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Shit, when nigga wasn't getting no clothes, rip my jeans, I knew how to sew them up.
No, seriously.
But it's serious. It's so oh my goodness, they need home ec, not more than African American history, but you know what I'm saying.
No, but see, that's the thing. Nothing is more important than the other. At the end of the day, we're all one. Everything is all one. So you'll take African American history and you'll know your background, But if you don't know how to cook, if you don't know how to film yourself, if you don't know how to love your family properly, you're gonna know the history, but you're not gonna know how to creatively utilize your history within the African American community. You know?
And I'm just gonna say, and that's when the teacher comes in. The teacher has to bring that creativity, because like if you don't, you're just giving them a message that no student in school wants anyway.
Exactly.
No student really comes to school excited to learn. They're excited for the teacher to teach them. So if you can build
are they really excited?
If you build that relationship with them,
you have to build that relationship.
You do. Like and like I've seen like the dichotomy of like strict no nonsense teacher and cool teacher who don't play. Cause that's me and my co-teacher, and like so we mesh so well like in the co-talk setting. Like I only teach 2 classes where it's like special ed small group, but then my other special ed kids, they're in the whole group setting where I'm supposed to be like their main teacher, but in the co-talk setting we both just teach the students. But like just seeing how it works when I'm on my own, but then just how like honestly how it works even better with her in the classroom, because it's just like I think to myself like when you like it's actually a framework called non-nonsense nurturer, and like when they know that like you don't play, like, you know what I'm saying? But like it's not because like you're trying to do them any ill will or you're just this teacher who's like shut up and listen. It's just I know that this person cares about me, and if I act out of line, they're gonna get on my ass. You know what I'm saying? Like and that's one thing that like I think all students need, because they love Miss I don't know if I can say her name, but they love Miss and it's like
but like, they understand the balance. It's all a balance.
No, they
give
do.
And take.
Like,
Go ahead.
But I was about to say, like that's one thing that I always thought was amazing. Even when me and Miss to the bump head sometimes, I'd be like, there's just so much that I can learn from you.
Exactly.
As far as like just creating this environment where I don't even know what word I'm looking for, but just like where teacher just goes so smooth.
Balance.
Now I would tell her that you know there's kids out there who really not paying attention, but like they still love Miss and they're gonna at least just sit there. Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
It's all about respect and feeling comfortable, feeling relatable. Is she assistant?
She is actually.
Okay, but you see,
and she's like my mentor too. So shout out to her.
Yes, shout out to you. We love you, Queen. No, but seriously, at the end of the day, it's all about being relatable. If the student, at the end of the day, you know your mom is lovely. You know, but you're not gonna disrespect her. But see, that's not everybody's background. Everybody doesn't have a decent relationship with their mother. So, you know,
she here right now.
The teachers, I feel like y'all are given a lot of responsibility to pick up the slack that parents really aren't there to give their children. You know, because at the end of the day, the kids they're either with their parents or with the teachers. It's half and half. So, you know, at the end of the day, it takes a village to raise a child.
It does, and my personal theory is actually that the school system raises the child. There's another reason the school system needs to be recreated to actually benefit the students, because think about it. If you're a student in extracurricular activities, school 8 hours, you had extracurricular activity 2 hours, you got picked up an hour late, so what is that? 11 hours you done spent at the damn school. Like, think about that.
It's a job. It's a 9 to 5.
You see what I'm saying? But not only is it a job, but like for the students, that's what's raising them. Every moral, how you learn how to treat people, all of those things you typically learn from school.
That's cool. Because you're barely not even with your parents the amount of time that you need to be with your parents.
You're not. And most of the times in low income areas, they go home and they don't even see their parents.
You're right.
Like that's one thing. Like that was my biggest concern. Like during like this pandemic, when like we had to like switch to virtual learning, was just that like
it makes it
a lot
so
of these students.
harder.
Yeah, it does. And like all these students really go home and like have nothing.
Yeah.
Like think about it. If a kid wasn't eating before they got to school, imagine what they were doing when they at home all day. Like that's when I realized like how important like the school building. Well, not when I realized it, but like also like amplify like how important the school building is to a lot of these students' lives.
And that's why the government is making a point to structure it to where, if you don't feel good at home, well, you definitely gonna know what it feels like to be in school, and this how you're gonna feel in the real world. So we're gonna adapt you to not what your parents want to make you, but to what we're gonna make you. And then that's where the unbalance comes if those children are not at a good, home, if they don't have a good household.
Yeah, I agree.
I really, you know, appreciate you for just coming out, and I definitely, you know, just to shine light on teachers. I feel like teachers are definitely underpaid. I feel like
it depends on how you grew up. Not gonna lie.
Like I'm not gonna. I personally feel like unless I have like just don't remember anything, I'm gonna remember those teachers that are really shining light to me, and that really, you know, taught me what I needed to be taught. That made me feel good when my mom or dad wasn't there. You know, and I definitely see that in you. I know that you have the energy and you have the not even potential, because you're already doing it. You know, you're young, you're being a teacher, you're being where you need to be. And you're supposed to be in those children's lives for a specific reason. So definitely shouts out to you.
Hey, I appreciate that.
Yes. And just to close up the show, thank you so much for coming out. Where can we reach you at? What are your social media handles or your website?
So I ain't got no website, but
that's fine.
I have an Instagram. It's called Principal_Bailey. That was back when I had my principal dreams. I might have to change it to Director Bailey, but we'll discuss that. And then, you know, my fun Instagram is called _Jawan. My middle name is spelled weird. It is GEJUAN_.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you so much for coming out. I appreciate you for everything you do.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. And I know your future endeavors with the youth community is going to be amazing. I already see it. I'm very excited.
I'm gonna start my own nonprofit. I don't know what it's called yet, but it's gonna be.
Yes.
It's gonna save some lives.
Oh no, trust me. We're gonna have you back on the show. I'm gonna say, so how your nonprofit going? So I'm already looking for it. I'm already gonna write up my script, all that good stuff. So you're already in my book. So thank you so much for coming out. Everybody feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, all that good stuff. Write me on Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, LinkedIn, all that good stuff. All of my information is in the description, link below. I'm Amarie Jacobs. Peace, love, and harmony. Y'all, I'm out.
Deuces.